Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
This is the Locker Room Podcast.
You want to talk about a performance that we saw tonight, we have to talk about the Seahawks. And joining us right now here on the program, on the Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, Doug Baldwin. That was a performance, Doug. 28 unanswered points. It was tied at 18, and then the wheels fell off the wagon for the Colts because of how you guys played. What flipped and what changed in the third quarter to allow you to create this separation, Doug?
We were really on the details, and then we kind of unleashed J.D. McKissick. I want y'all to make sure when y'all get a chance, ask Pete what Doug said about J.D. McKissick 3 weeks ago. I want to get credit for that. But we really unleashed J.D. McKissick, and our offensive line did a heck of a job. Russell played extremely well, and we were extremely efficient on defense. I don't think the Colts had any passing yards in the second half. So it was phenomenal team effort.
Doug, 2 more defensive touchdowns tonight. You practice against these guys every day. What makes these guys so great, particularly at creating turnovers and scoring these non-offensive touchdowns?
It's that they get to go against us every week. That's what makes them so good.
I love that answer.
Doug Baldwin joining us here on ESPN Radio. Sean Farnham alongside Barrett Jones. And you had a 2-point conversion tonight, Doug, and there was nobody within 20 yards of you. Were you shocked when you turned around? I mean, you were so wide open. They weren't even guarding you.
I mean, no, that's not the case. I want y'all to go back and watch the film. I don't want to sit here and just continue to boast on myself, but there was
come on, you can do it, Doug.
Yeah,
come on, give it to me. Take me through the play. Tell me how open you got. Tell me.
Well, it was man-to-man coverage. I went right. The other man went left. That's basically all I can tell you.
I love it, Doug. Doug, you're catching balls from one of the best quarterbacks in the league, Russell Wilson. This guy just has a knack for extending plays. What's it like playing receiver for a guy like Russell Wilson where the play is really never over?
It's unbelievable because you always have an opportunity to make a play. He's always, like you said, extending the plays, but he's a magician back there, and he does some incredible things with his legs when he's taking off and when he's running the ball. But what's more important for us, obviously as receivers, is that he's still looking down the field to make plays, and he does that at such a high rate and such a consistent rate. It makes it really easy on us as well.
Doug Baldwin joining us here on ESPN Radio, and a big win tonight, 46 points, the most the Seahawks have scored since 2002 in a prime time football game. They did it tonight against the Colts at home. That home environment, Doug, I've been up there for a game before, but for fans who around the NFL who haven't been able to watch you guys play at home, there's so many false starts because of just how loud miscommunications at the line for the opposing offenses. What's it like for you being an offensive player in there? Because we talk so much about how it disrupts the opponent at the offensive end, but how's it for an offensive player for you guys to feed off that energy?
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's one of the beautiful parts of football when you get to enjoy the home crowd when your defense is out there. Football is a complete experience, and when you get the opportunity to truly experience what that's like, it feels like artwork. That I'm in the midst of artwork. It's a beautiful thing.
Doug, 477 yards tonight for the offense. What kind of confidence does a performance like this give you guys moving forward into the rest of the season?
Yeah, well, it proves that we have the capability of doing that. To be completely honest, we came in expecting to have some success. We didn't think that we were going to have this much success, but we thought we were going to have some success. And we practice at such a high rate and have a high standard in practice that when it comes to fruition like it did tonight, it's extremely encouraging, extremely affirming that we have the tools, that we have the players and the weapons to put up the numbers like we did tonight.
And you guys coming off this big win, and of course earlier today, you heard it when we were talking before you came on, the Rams and their big performance. You guys face next week. How important is this trip to Los Angeles going to be for you guys against a Rams team that right now is finding a rhythm itself?
Well, it's important just because it's an NFC West opponent. We want to make sure that we're still competing for the NFC West title. That's more important than anything. Obviously, the Rams have been doing extremely well. They look like a revamped team, so it's another exciting challenge for us.
Doug Baldwin, we appreciate you taking the time and joining us immediately following the big victory tonight over the Indianapolis Colts. Congratulations on the win, and look forward to watching you guys next week against the Rams.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Welcome you back in the locker room. Barrett Jones, Sean Farnham. This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests appearing via the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. So we talk about the Patriots, and it wasn't that long ago, Barrett Jones, I was sitting in on Mike and Mike in early August, and we were talking about the potential of this Patriots team going undefeated. And everybody was getting hyped, and this was even after Julian Edelman went down. All right, and we're like, well, they got other guys that are going to step up. Tom Brady hasn't thrown an interception all season long. He continues to play well. He played well today, too. 307 yards, 32 of 45, 2 touchdowns for Tom Brady. However, this defense that they upgraded hasn't answered the bell yet, and now here we are 4 games in. And folks, I'm not lying here. The Jets have the same record as the Patriots. The Jets. And just think about that for a second. This is a team that, and Vegas, by the way, has changed the odds. This is the first time that the Patriots are no longer the favorites to win the Super Bowl. They were replaced tonight, 9-2 odds, if you have friends in the desert. The Pittsburgh Steelers are now the favorite to win the Super Bowl. So I understand it's Tom Brady, and I understand we're only 4 games in, and we are in the business of sometimes overreacting. Are people overreacting right now and panicking too much about this New England Patriots team?
I would say absolutely not. I think it's never time to panic, first of all. I think there's a difference between being concerned and panicking. When you have Tom Brady as your quarterback, you never panic under any circumstance because you can win every game you play. But I tell you what, this defense has been the worst defense in the NFL through 4 weeks. They've been the worst defense in the NFL. I mean, they have made Alex Smith look like, an all-pro guy, which, Alex Smith's a good quarterback. But they give up 42 points to Alex Smith. Matt Patricia, he's catching some heat, and rightfully so. These guys have a very good secondary. You referenced, signed Stephon Gilmore, Devin McCourty, Malcolm Butler. 3 of the best secondary guys in the upper echelon of the league. But up front, it's brutal right now. No edge rusher, having trouble stopping the run. There's just so many unpatriot-like plays, too. There's guys running wide open all over the field, miscommunication on the back end, frustration on the sidelines. Tom can't do it all. It is a very non-patriot look right now for that defense.
In fact, Tom Brady, after the game, talking about some of the issues that caused the loss to Carolina.
I think, we got to do a better job staying on the field on third down because, we didn't have the ball as much as we would have liked. And, it really comes back to us, converting on third down and playing great complementary football. So, we scored in all the drives except one in the first half and then didn't have the ball much in the third quarter, kind of our fault. And then, put together a couple of good drives in the fourth quarter, but, it just wasn't enough today.
How much of this is the running game? To take some of it, to stay on the field like Tom is talking about, how much more do they need out of the rushing attack, or do they not need anything more because Tom's so smooth that they can get away with it in most cases?
No, I think you nailed it, Sean. I think that's a huge underplayed storyline in this whole deal is the running game. Last year, obviously, they had LeGarrette Blount, who wasn't – you look at his stats from last year, 1,100 yards, 3.9 yards per carry, but 18 touchdowns. He was the perfect complement, this power run game, to the up-tempo. Obviously, they still have the James White, the Deion Lewis type guys. Now they mix in Rex Burkhead, those kind of shifty backs, but they really don't have a guy. They have Gillislee. He's not LeGarrette Blount. They don't have that power run game that they had last year. See, what makes these guys so tough to stop? When you talk about a defensive coordinator planning for Tom Brady, I've talked to several of them. I've asked them that question, what makes them so tough to stop? See, they have so many different athletic guys like a Rob Gronkowski, who you're not sure where he's going to line up. He could line up as a slot receiver. He could line up as a tight end on the line. So what they do is they see what personnel you put in, and if you put the small guys in when Gronk's on the field, they're going to run the football with that power running game. They don't have that this year. They have not been able to run it effectively, in the traditional sets, the big power sets that we're used to seeing from the Patriots.
Here is Bill Belichick, the head coach of the Patriots, in case you didn't know, talking about the loss after the game.
Whatever they are. Okay, I mean, we play a different team every week. Nothing's quite the same. In the end, the team we play against, we've got to do a better job of defending. We've got to do a better job of attacking. Got to do a better job of, field position in the kicking game. I mean, we just need to do a better job in every area. So that's what we'll work on. Well, everything's important. So, I mean, you need to do a good job in every area. If any part of it's not right, then against a good team, good quarterback, good receivers, pay the price in this league. So everything's important. Just got to do it right. Got to be more consistent.
The only thing missing there was him saying, and we're on to Tampa. We're on to Tampa. We got the Bucks. They got a good quarterback. They've got a good wide receiver.
He's such a gem. I mean, I love this interview.
He's in mid-season form, and that's not something that should shock anybody. But you know what would be shocking maybe sometimes is if you surprised a friend or a loved one with a bouquet of flowers from 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers.com has amazing offers. Bouquets starting at just $29.99. Maybe the Patriots could use one right now. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN to get yours ordered now. But, okay, so we talk about the Patriots and what they're missing, and Bill Belichick saying, hey, we got to be better, we got to be sharper, we got to be this. That's fine. Let's take it from the other perspective here. How big of a win is this for the Panthers and Cam Newton? Like, Cam Newton got back on track today, and all of a sudden now they're 3-1 sitting atop their division.
No, it's a huge win for these guys. I think we know about the Panthers defense, and Jeff Schwartz and I actually last week on the locker room, we talked about Cam Newton. We talked about the expectations. We were both very low on Cam Newton. Now, I got to say, I think a lot of this, to be honest with you, is the Patriots defense. I mean, they had guys running wide open today. So, I'm not ready to crown Cam Newton again and say he's quite back in MVP form yet. But he did look a lot better today. He looked a lot more comfortable. We got some answers. What are they going to do without Greg Olsen? They spread the ball around a little bit. Kelvin Benjamin finally broke out, had a big game. But Cam got back in the running game a little bit. I think that's what makes Cam great. That's the thing is, Cam's at his best when he's using his legs and his arm, and scoring his 50th rushing career touchdown today, a big milestone for Cam. He is a dangerous runner. Unfortunately, playing in Alabama, I saw that up close and personal. He is not a well-liked guy in the northern part of the state down there. But no, he's one of the greatest athletes of our generation in a lot of ways. And when he's kind of got that confidence back, to me that's what I saw when I was watching him today. He looked more comfortable, more confident, more healthy to the point where he didn't mind taking off, scrambling, because that's when he's at his best.
Yeah, you mentioned it. If you feel bad about that, just remember, just go watch your football team play like they did on Saturday. I mean, they just obliterated Ole Miss. I mean, that was a no contester. I mean, every time I looked up, I was like, did they just score 20 more points?
Yeah, that was a fun one for a lot of people, and I think especially there was a lot of Ole Miss frustration. After losing 2 of the last 3 years. To kind of get that monkey off her back. They kind of had her number, but I think that's over now.
Yeah, a little sidestep into the college realm just to make my partner tonight, Barrett Jones, feel a little bit better. T-Town still feeling good. T-Town, number 1 in the country in college football, though. Clemson looks for like round number 3 potentially down the road here. Could be fun in college football. But we're talking all NFL tonight. We're going to continue our discussion, in particular with the Los Angeles Rams. This is the Locker Room on ESPN Radio, ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests will appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We'll be joined by Alden Gonzalez, ESPN Rams reporter around the corner, because I live out in Los Angeles. And I'll tell you right now, nobody cared about the Rams a couple of weeks ago. Now, all of a sudden, maybe they care a little bit more. Todd Gurley's running the ball well. Jared Goff is throwing it well. And the Rams, they're 3-1 on top of the NFC West.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
My whole career, I've always been, kind of the people's champ in the locker room.
Welcome back to The Locker Room on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. We're presented by Progressive Insurance, and that call right there is from my hometown ESPN affiliate, 710 in Los Angeles. And joining us right now, Alden Gonzalez, ESPN Rams reporter, and a huge win and a huge statement, in my opinion. And as we get to him, all guests appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance line. But big win for the Rams over the Cowboys today. So, Alden, let me ask you this. As we get things started here, what kind of statement was made by the Rams today?
Well, I think a lot of the players on this team kind of viewed this game, even though it's only the fourth game of the season and there's so much to go here, they kind of viewed this game as something of an early measuring stick for them because this was on the road, again, in a hostile environment against the Cowboys team that is really talented, coming off a 13-win season. And, if you look at their 2 wins heading into this game, they beat a shorthanded Colts team to start the season, a Colts team that wasn't really ready for the season to begin at that point. And then they went and beat the 49ers, a team that's in the beginning of a rebuild that, frankly, a team that they should beat. So for them, this marked maybe the first real test. And, Gurley even said it heading into this league. He said, this is a test for us to see just how far we've come as a team since the end of last year. And I think for them to be able to win this game, and not just win this game, but win it the way they did, which is with their offense, continuing to march the ball down the field like the way they've done all year, I think it says a lot about where this team is right now. And, look, the Rams went 3-1 to start last year, and then they won only one more game over their last 12 weeks. A lot of players pointed that out afterwards, but you feel this year's 3-1 feels completely different from last year's 3-1. And it has everything to do with their offense. Their offense actually gives them a chance to be in games all the time. They've scored more than 30 points in 3 of their first 4 weeks. They only did that one time last year, guys. Jared Goff is playing great. Todd Gurley is very productive. Different receivers seem to get involved every week. And you feel like this defense is just going to continue to get better because the defense heading into the year was supposed to be the strength. So even though last year didn't turn out well despite a 3-1 start, this year just feels completely different for these guys.
Alden, Barrett Jones here. I actually played for the Rams for 2 seasons. Still have a lot of friends on the team. And one question I called and asked them last week is that after the big win, I said, what's different down there? How has it changed? And they really told me that they feel like the culture has really shifted down there. Have you felt that around the building, that this culture is improving?
Yeah, I think, talking to players just throughout the summer, the one thing that a lot of their guys have said continually is that the attention to detail with this coaching staff is a lot higher than what they had before. And I think that's really important when you have such a young team. I think the Rams are still the second youngest team in the NFL. This coaching staff preaches a lot more about teaching technique, teaching fundamentals that I think a lot of the players feel like the other staff didn't preach as much. And I think Sean McVay just kind of, in addition to being so good about just kind of the way offenses function and designing plays that free receivers up to get wide open, I think he demands a lot out of these guys. Tavon Austin even said it today after the game about just how hard Sean McVay rides them in practice and how it's kind of allowed them to kind of play to a different level now when the game starts.
ESPN Rams reporter Alden Gonzalez joining us here on ESPN Radio. And obviously a big part of this is Jared Goff. But I thought you brought up a stat after this game was over about how defenses are now starting to respect Goff. And I think that's what's allowing Todd Gurley to have the success that he had. I think you said it's 16 out of his 23 touches today. There were only 6 guys in the box. How important is that people are at least honoring Jared Goff and seeing him as a threat for Todd Gurley?
Oh, it's everything for the Rams. And Todd Gurley was a guy who finished, I think, second to last in the NFL last year in average yards before first contact, which means that as soon as he touched the ball, guys were in his face ready to tackle him. And it wasn't just that defenses were stacking the box. It was that they were stacking the box and the Rams' offensive line wasn't very good. So what do they do in the offseason? They probably made the best upgrade of any team in the NFL at any position when you talk about going from Greg Robinson at left tackle, one of the worst left tackles in the game, to Andrew Whitworth at left tackle, one of the best left tackles in the game. They improved their offensive line that way. And then And then what you needed after that, though, was for Jared Goff to kind of establish himself a little bit and provide the threat of beating teams downfield. And it's interesting because in the Rams' first game of the season against the Colts, I forget exactly what Todd Gurley's numbers were, but they weren't very good on the ground. It was the one thing that they couldn't do on offense in that game. But Jared Goff was so efficient with the football that you wondered after that game, okay, at what point are defenses now going to start accounting for Jared Goff, and at what point is that going to start to open things up for Todd Gurley? And I think we're starting to see that manifest itself. Now this is back-to-back games now where Todd Gurley has topped 100 yards on the ground, and he went 20 consecutive games without reaching 100 rushing yards, which is just crazy when you consider this guy's talent. But I think, one interesting thing about Todd Gurley is that everybody wondered heading into the year if he could kind of pick up from where he was as a rookie. And so far this season, what Todd Gurley's showing you is that he's actually better than he was as a rookie, because not only is he doing it on the ground, he's doing it through the air. He's developed into a really reliable, a really talented receiver. I mean, you saw it today. You saw it against the San Francisco 49ers. I think he's caught about 20 of his 22 targets this year, which for a running back is pretty amazing.
Oh, and it's no secret when you're a number one draft pick like Jared Goff, there's a lot of pressure to be great. And probably that's a big reason why Sean McVay, a quarterback guy, was hired in Los Angeles to be the Rams coach. What impact do you feel like Sean McVay has had on specifically Jared Goff, and why has Jared Goff been so much better this year?
Yeah, and that's a good point about the pressure of a number one overall pick to be great. And the thing that Sean McVay has done throughout the year is to try to ease some of that burden off Jared Goff. So what Sean McVay has continued, first of all, Sean McVay has such a great knack for just making the game easy on a quarterback. Everything that he schemes up in a game is a play call that his quarterback is really comfortable with. He makes the offense easy to digest for his quarterback. But one thing that he's continually preached to Jared Goff is he doesn't need him to be the guy who puts the offense on his shoulders. What he said about Jared Goff throughout the year is that he just wants him to make sound decisions, and he wants him to distribute the football. He doesn't need him to do anything else, and that's exactly what Jared Goff has done. Jared told me recently that his entire life he's felt like he needed to put offenses on his shoulders. That was in high school. It happened at Cal, and he kind of carried that mentality with him in the NFL in his first year. And he feels like this year he's kind of learned that he doesn't really have to do all that much. He just has to not turn the ball over and just get it in guys' hands so that they can create after the catch, because there are a lot of guys on this offense that can create yards after the catch. And I think so that mentality from Jared, I mean, I think it can come naturally for a quarterback in his second year, but I think it also comes with just having so much more around him this year. He's got a better offensive line. He's got more weapons at receiver, and he's in an offense now that he knows is going to give him a real chance every week.
Alden Gonzalez, ESPN Rams reporter, joining us here on ESPN Radio. I live in Los Angeles, and you know what? I see the pictures, and I talk to my friends, and the buzz about the Rams, so let's be honest, there wasn't a lot coming into this season. How much do you think coming home now, facing the Seahawks, after these back-to-back road victories, maybe changes the perception of what this organization and what this team can accomplish this year?
I'll be honest, I'm really curious about that, because the Rams did not sell out season tickets going into the year, and they've been drawing about 55 to 60,000 in their games for every week. And, you look at last year, they had their home opener against the Seahawks, and they had 90,000 fans at the stadium. And they're not going to have that on Sunday when they host the Seahawks. They've limited capacity to about 65,000 this year. They're probably going to have about 60,000 fans at the game, just because that's what it is so far this year. But I think there's a real excitement about the Rams right now. One thing that the Rams front office, Kevin Demoff actually said this at the end of last year. He said that, if you're playing in Los Angeles, you can't be bad and boring at the same time. You have to have at least one of the two, right? If you're not going to win games, you at least have to be scoring points. So this team, obviously their focus in the offseason was to improve that offense. You saw them make so many different additions to that offense. You saw them invest a lot of money in that offense. Sean McVay was an offensive guy, obviously. And what you see from the Rams this year, on top of the fact that they're winning, they're actually an exciting football team because you know that they could throw the ball downfield. You know that they could rack up points. They've topped 40 points twice already this season, and you need that in Los Angeles. Even if you're not winning, you need to be something that's exciting for people to watch because not only are you in competition with the Chargers, but you're in competition with USC, you're in competition with UCLA, you're in competition now with the Dodgers. So the Rams are at least maybe catching people's attention now, but I think it's going to take them a while for them to get the trust of Los Angeles again. I think they blew a really big opportunity last year by going 4-12. And now they're really going to have their work cut out for them. I don't think you're going to see an uptick in attendance as soon as week 5 hosting the Seahawks. I think that's going to come later in the year when you're playing into late November and into December, and you actually have a chance to make the playoffs. I think at that point, fans are going to start gravitating towards the Rams. And I think it also helps that, for the Rams' sake at least, that the Chargers are 0-4 right now.
Yeah, well, and they're not even drawing at a stadium that can seat about 35,000. Right. So tickets are available for the NFL if you want to watch your team play in Los Angeles. Alden Gonzalez, though, we appreciate you joining us here on ESPN Radio. Thanks for your insight and look forward to the matchup next week for the Rams and the Seahawks.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Alden Gonzalez, join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now, fuelrewards.com/gold. This is a Locker Room on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. Barrett Jones and Sean Farnham with you here tonight. And sometimes, you know what? Even in good, solid road victories, teammates, well, they don't like each other very much. And you have altercations. We'll talk about that next.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
You got to go out there and earn their respect from the guys in the locker room.
Barrett Jones, Sean Farnham here on ESPN Radio and talking about frustration. And sometimes it's interesting when frustration will show up and how teams will react to it. And we saw a little bit of that today, Barrett, with the Steelers. Now, Ben Roethlisberger hasn't had the most success. He came in to playing this game in Baltimore today, just 2-7 on his career in Baltimore. They get the win, yet afterwards, nobody was talking necessarily about the performance. Instead, they were talking about frustration with Antonio Brown, and here's Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, I heard about it.
You hear from him?
You know what? AB's a playmaker, right? We have a lot of them on this field, and sometimes there's not enough footballs to go around to everybody, but I think AB is a very passionate. You guys, especially from Pittsburgh, know how passionate he is about wanting to help this team, wanting to do everything he can to take us to that next level. I think that's just nothing more than a competitor wanting the ball every single play, and you can't blame him for it.
Antonio Brown gets the ball almost every single play when Ben Roethlisberger throws it. However, not a couple of times today. Antonio Brown attributing his frustration to his heart.
We won the game today. It's like a kid being excited for Christmas. You work on it. You're expecting that play on that day. Sometimes it don't work out, you move on.
How do you feel about the offense in general?
We got the win today. We haven't won here in 5 years, so it's been great to get the win today and to take heat in the division.
Is that as frustrated as you can remember yourself being?
Passionate about the game. Anytime you work as hard and you're expecting somebody to play and don't go the way you want it, you just get a little frustrated.
Antonio Brown was targeted a team-high 9 times today from Ben Roethlisberger. 4 catches, though, just 34 yards. Those aren't Antonio Brown numbers, Barrett Jones. So when you see something like this on the sideline where frustration starts to boil over, how do you view what happened today in Baltimore?
Well, I honestly think it's an absolute non-story. I mean, I think it's no big deal at all. I first of all, let me tell you, I was a bit of a journeyman in the NFL. I played for the Steelers for a brief minute, had a cup of coffee, as they say. I have never seen a guy work like Antonio Brown. I got to tell you guys, it was something to watch in practice. When I was not in practice, I was watching this guy, Antonio Brown, because this guy runs every single route in practice like it's the Super Bowl. And you wonder why he's so good. It's because of that. I mean, the guy works so hard like you heard Ben say in the interview, he is such a competitor because you meet this guy. He's not that physically impressive. I mean, just shaking his hand, he's not that tall. He's not that strong looking. He doesn't look like one of your freak athletes. But then you watch him practice, the dude just works so hard. That's what makes him so great. I think when you got a competitive guy like that, sometimes you get frustrated. In his defense, he was streaking wide open down the middle of the field. But Ben talked about coming into this game, he wanted to spread the ball around. He did that today. Martavis Bryant had 3 catches. Smith-Schuster had 3 catches. Le'Veon had 4 catches. Jesse James had 3 catches. Antonio Brown had 4. So, I think they understand it. They can't be a one-dimensional Antonio Brown offense if they want to win the Super Bowl, which is this team's goal this year. And so I think it was, probably we're going to see a lot more of that because, teams are figuring it out. They're shifting over, bracketing Antonio a lot, and they're going to have to be able to spread the ball around, which historically, something we talked about on the show last week, Ben has been awful on the road. Today was a lot better, got the win. This Steelers team is looking really, really sharp.
ESPN Radio presented by Progressive Insurance. Last year, over 3 million drivers switched to Progressive. Call or click today to find out if you could save. And maybe they saved Antonio Brown today because they had Le'Veon Bell. And it's the first time he's rushed for over 100 yards this season. He had 35 carries for $144 and 2 touchdowns. That balance, not just as far as who Ben Roethlisberger's throwing the ball to, but running the ball. How important is that for now the Super Bowl favorites in Las Vegas, the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, I honestly think this is who this team wants to be. I think they want to be a run-first team. Le'Veon Bell, there's a lot to talk about there. Did he hurt the team? But I think he did. I frankly think he did. I didn't like what he did just because everyone knew he was going to sign that contract. I know people say, well, he wasn't under contract. He had no responsibility to come back. Everyone knew he was going to sign that contract. He decided not to come to training camp, and he was rusty. Those first 3 weeks of the season, he looked rusty. But today we saw the old Le'Veon Bell, still only 4.1 yards a carry, but 35 carries, that workhorse that we all know and love. I know a lot of fantasy owners were excited to see him today, kind of back up to his old tricks. But I think that this is the offense is going to run through Le'Veon Bell at this point forward because he's going to take the Steelers where they want to go. I really believe he's the best player on this football team, and they'll go as far as Le'Veon takes them.
Well, and I think that balance, and you talk about the defense and where they're at right now, the Steelers are looking really good. So we've talked already about the Seahawks, an impressive win for them. We touched on the Rams and all that they're doing right now. But there's another story that has started to take over in the NFL, and that has been an emergence of a talented rookie quarterback in Deshaun Watson. We'll talk about the Texans with Sarah Barshop when we return.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. This is The Locker Room Podcast.
And join us right now, ESPN Texans reporter Sarah Barshop. And Sarah, describe the vibe in the locker room after that big win.
There was a lot of smiling after the game. Like, we were talking to guys, and it was almost like you couldn't believe it. And I think even me, every time I looked at the scoreboard or at the stat sheet, I was like, oh my gosh, that's right, they scored 57 points. I mean, it's kind of unbelievable, especially when you consider the history of this franchise, especially at quarterback, and what the offense looked like last year, and even the first 2 games of the season. I mean, struggling is, I don't say that lightly when I talk about what the offense did last year and at the beginning of the season. So to see what they've done in the last 2 games is very impressive.
Sarah, Deshaun Watson was awesome today, 5 total touchdowns. What kind of confidence does he give to the guys around him and this team? And you get the sense that this offense and this whole football team kind of has a renewed sense of confidence and feeling that they can really go far in the playoffs this year.
Absolutely. In fact, Lamar Miller said after the game, the way that he sees what Watson does and how much he wants to win, he can just tell, I want to work even harder because of that. And I've talked to a lot of players, so I've written some stories about Watson's leadership and his communication and everything like that. And they say, it's second to none. He brings an energy that you don't get, all the time.
Well, that energy, I think, becomes infectious. And today, in particular, the defensive end of the field for them against this Tennessee offense, they knocked them out of rhythm. They held them less than 100 yards of total yards rushing and just barely over 100 yards passing. Talk about this defense and how it's coming to form, because if they're going to go deep in the playoff, it can't just rest on Watson's shoulders.
Right, and I think the last couple of seasons, I mean, they've won the AFC South in, back-to-back years, but they've relied on that defense. The defense was the number one ranked unit in total defense last season, and they bailed out the offense a lot. And after the game, J.J. Watt said, it's kind of nice sitting on the bench. The time of possession, the Texans offense had the ball, I think, almost 40 minutes or something crazy like that. And it's such a difference. And when they can put both pieces together, kind of like they did today, especially at periods early in the game when the defense was totally dominant and the Texans scored touchdowns on their first two possessions, I mean, that's a team that you could see going further in the playoffs than they have just relying on one side of the ball the last couple seasons.
Sarah, Deshaun Watson stole the show today, but another big storyline was Will Fuller coming back from injury, scoring 2 big touchdowns. How do you feel like he makes this offense better?
Well, he stretches the field, and that's something they just haven't had. DeAndre Hopkins said after the game, they lose a defender when they have to do that. There's one less guy that can key in on Hopkins. And so when you can do that, it just gives you so many more opportunities. It leaves Hopkins open more, and then when Fuller does get free, it's a great one-on-one matchup, and if he can catch the ball, his speed will get him in the end zone, and we saw he had 2 touchdowns, and he had another pass, actually, that was thrown to him that he probably would have caught in the end zone, and the defender pretty much grabbed his helmet and pulled him to the ground, and it was called for defensive pass interference. So, I mean, I didn't really expect that coming into this game. I thought maybe they'd ease him in, but I think today showed how valuable he is to this offense.
Well, you look at this game, and Sarah Barshop with us, our Houston Texans reporter, you look at this game and you see the 57 points, and you see they only gave up 14, and you get really excited. And it's easy to get caught up in that moment. But then you look at the schedule and you realize that next week, and as we are talking tonight, the only remaining undefeated team in the NFL is who they play next week in the Kansas City Chiefs. What kind of momentum do you think this gives this team moving forward to what now is a very big matchup?
Bill O'Brien said after the game, we asked him about the win, and he said, yeah, but, we've got a lot to work on. We've got to move on to next week. And it was kind of like, okay, Bill, but he still scored 57 points. Obviously, this was a big win. But the way O'Brien looks at it, at least publicly, is that, he said there's still 13 games left, or 13 weeks left. We've got a lot of work to do. And so, I mean, I don't know how much better they can play than they played today, but I think if they play even similarly to the level they played the last 2 weeks, that will be a very fun game to watch.
Sarah, a storyline earlier in the season was left tackle Dwayne Brown. He's been holding out since the start of training camp, former All-Pro guy. After week 1, I'm an offensive line guy. I watched this offensive line, and they were, frankly, a disaster week 1. And I thought to myself, it will not be long before they re-signed Dwayne Brown. Now they're playing a lot better, kind of coming together as a group. What's the latest you're hearing out of Dwayne Brown's camp?
So Bill O'Brien said today he really hasn't addressed Dwayne Brown. He said that's more of a front office thing. I just handle the guys I've coached. But Bill said that he can see as the line plays together more. I mean, these are 5 guys who haven't really played together, and especially with some injuries they've had, it's kind of been interchangeable pieces. So he said he's been really happy. I mean, I thought they played a lot better today. Watson had time to throw. He wasn't forced to scramble. And so that's a big improvement, like you said, over week 1, and even I would say against the Patriots. So, I mean, I don't know that it's a matter of leverage either way. I think the Texans want Dwayne Brown back, but it seems like both sides have held pretty firm to their ground, so I'll be interested to see where this goes, especially as the line has gotten better.
It's amazing to me, Sarah, that we've gotten to this point in the season, and J.J. Watt has still not recorded a sack yet for this team defensively. How has he taken the fact that so many people are paying and it's been this way for the last couple of years, obviously, one of the best defensive players in all of the NFL, but they've kept him at bay so far. Is there any sense of frustration for JJ not getting to the quarterback yet?
He told us last week that, he's taking a lot of double teams on, and he said if that means that other guys are able to get free and get sacks, I'll happily do that. Said he doesn't really care about the sacks. He really cares about winning and losing. They finally won today. Obviously, the defense played pretty well. I mean, I think there's some measure of course, you want to have sacks. You want to get those stats. But the way the defense has played, I mean, they had 4 interceptions today. They got the quarterback a little bit. And so I think if they play like this, I think he'll be happy. But, of course, always you want sacks.
Sarah, Almost beat the Patriots last week, big win this week. What do you feel like being around this team? What's a realistic expectation for this team the rest of the season?
I think a lot of it depends on Deshaun Watson, and I have no reason to believe that he won't continue playing this way. I mean, he's gotten better every week he's played, and that includes coming off the bench in week 1, going on a short week to Cincinnati, and then finally having some time to prepare when they played the Patriots because they had an extra couple days. So if he keeps playing well in the defense, the sky's the limit. I think when you look at their schedule, they've gotten past a tough start, and I don't know. I think you finish this 2-2 and you're pretty happy. First quarter of the season done, you kind of are figuring out your offensive identity. So they finished 9-7 the last 3 years under O'Brien, so I guess that's probably a good bet. But the big key is that they've really never made it far in the playoffs. They've never made it to an AFC Championship game. And I think it's just been 2 games, and obviously a little early to talk about that. But if Watson is as good as he has been the last 2 weeks, I think they're definitely a dangerous team, especially in the AFC South.
All right, Sarah Barshop, thank you so much for joining us, giving us the insight on the Houston Texans and their big day today.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with the Name Your Price tool and find a price that works best for you. Barrett Jones and Sean Farnham here in the locker room on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance. We talk about the good. Okay, well, then let's talk about the bad here a little bit. Giants, bad. Browns, bad. Chargers, bad. 49ers doing exactly what we expected them to do. They are who we thought they were, and we're not letting them off the hook. All right? So when you look at these teams right now, and in particular the Giants, when you're in New York, things kind of get put under a microscope a little bit brighter, a little bit bigger. You've got the Odell Beckham story. Eli Manning, where is he right now? He did better today, but the Giants still come up short to the Buccaneers. How bad will this season get for the Giants?
Well, I've been absolutely shocked by the Giants. I mean, like you said, they're bad. I mean, they just look bad out there. They're playing bad football. Obviously, having Odell back helps, but they can't run the football. This offensive line is terrible. I mean, they really are a bad offensive line. And there's a lot of bad offensive lines right now. It's kind of embarrassing to say that because I am an offensive lineman. Offensive line play around the NFL is a little bit down this year. But that Giants offensive line is brutal. I mean, you watch Eli. He's got to get the ball out of his – that's the adjustment he's made. It's not that the line's gotten better. Eli's just getting the ball out of his hands in like 2 seconds now because he doesn't want to get smashed by those guys. I mean, it's gonna come apart quickly in New York, and it's going to be really ugly because, like you said, everything's under a microscope there. There's no hiding. Eli's been average. They can't run the football. They have just so much talent. You look at Brandon Marshall. I mean, you look at Sterling Shepard, obviously Odell. They've got so many talented guys, so many talented weapons. Janoris Jenkins on defense. I mean, Snacks Harrison. They have a lot of good football players in that team. Way too many good football players to be 0-4.
Well, and then the question becomes next week something's got to give because they host the Los Angeles Chargers, who are also 0-4, and maybe the best 0-4 team. I mean, we say that often with the Chargers. They're always in these one-possession games. Why is it that this organization can't find a way to overcome so many of these 3-point, 4-point losses that we've seen in the early stages of the season?
God, it's brutal. It's so excruciating to watch. You feel so bad. I love Phillip Rivers. Okay, I think people around the league have different opinions on Phillip Rivers. I love watching the guy. I mean, he's a competitor. I mean, he's always yelling, barking at somebody. But I love the guy. I love his attitude. Seems like a guy we'd love to play for. But I don't know. I don't know the answer. I mean, I think it is a little. Man, it's got to be tough. It's got to be just playing in front of a visiting crowd for 16 games a year. I saw Jason Peters said that after the game. They have to play 16 road games a year. I mean, it really is like that for these guys right now. I mean, nobody wants them. They're the orphans of the NFL. But I don't know. They've just lost so many close games over the years. But I agree with you. It seems like they could win any game they play, but they lose so many in brutal fashion. They've got a good quarterback, some good receivers, and some good players on defense. For whatever reason, can't pull it together.
A missed field goal at Denver in week 1 that would have tied it at the end of regulation. A missed field goal that would have won it against the Miami Dolphins, and then today a 2-point loss for the Chargers against the Eagles at home, even though there were more Eagles fans in the building. When we come back here on The Locker Room on ESPN Radio with Barrett Jones and myself, Sean Farnham, I'm going to tell you something that absolutely drives me crazy. It's a term that we use so frequently, and it's not just in football, it's across all sports. But we do use it a lot in football as well. I'll tell you what it is, why it annoys me when we return.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The Locker Room on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. Barrett Jones and myself, Sean Farnham, here with you, presented by Progressive Insurance. People can tweet us and hit us up at the 1-800-FLOWERS Twitter account at ESPN Radio, at Barrett A. Jones, or at Sean Farnham, whichever one you choose. I got this one from Johnny at Sean Farnham. No Bills chat. Get to the Bills, Johnny. Just relax. We got some time. We got about 45 minutes left. All right, actually about 40 minutes. I got 40 minutes to talk about the Bills, Johnny. I'll get it just for you, okay? I know you're listening. You're driving around somewhere. You want to talk about it. Fine. We'll talk about it. I wasn't going to leave him out. Trust me. Now, what I did not also want to leave out is this word, elite. What does elite mean to you, Barrett Jones? The definition of elite.
It's a tricky word.
Because we throw it around in this business that we're in, the sports media world. He's an elite-level athlete in basketball. Well, most people that are in the NBA, by the way, are amazing athletes. Even at the college level where I cover the SEC, which, by the way, SEC football fans, you're going to have a great basketball season coming up, too. A lot of good teams in the SEC from top to bottom. I know that excites you, Barrett Jones. You'll see me on Super Tuesday. But here's the thing, all right? We say elite-level quarterback. He's elite-level wide receiver. He's elite-level running back. What are the qualifications for that? And the reason why I bring this up, and yes, it's the one that's most often discussed, is Joe Flacco. And I'm sorry, what I'm watching on the field right now isn't even close to elite.
I totally agree. There's nothing elite right now about Joe Flacco. Now, he was maybe kind of elite, but I mean, can you even drift in and out of eliteness? Or are you born elite?
Because here's my thing. If you're elite, and this is why I say we use it too frequently, if you're elite, you're always elite. Peyton Manning, elite. Aaron Rodgers, elite. Regardless of even at the end of their careers, if all of a sudden Tom Brady, elite. If something changes, all right, and they're not at the right level, still elite.
I agree.
Still elite. Joe Montana was elite after he left the Niners and he went to the Chiefs. Elite. Joe Flacco, not elite. Joe Flacco's numbers right now, by the way, he's completing 61% of his passes. He has 366 yards passing, 3 interceptions and 4 TDs. 4 interceptions, 3 TDs. Not elite. Not elite. This offense isn't elite. The Ravens aren't elite. All right, so this is why I talk about it, and it's like we look at these quarterbacks and we all want to put these labels on them.
I don't think Eli Manning's elite. I mean, right? He's
right.
had 2 Super Bowls, and that's the guy is not elite. You look at him, he's not elite.
Okay, and that's the thing that people always want to go to. Well, if he wins the Super Bowl, you must be elite. No. You can have a good defense. You can have a good running back. Football, it's a team sport. You know it as much as anybody. You need a good offensive line, Barrett Jones, to win a Super Bowl. You need to win the trenches on both sides. Okay? But quarterbacks get the credit, and that's fine. But at what point in time do we stop using the word elite and we just say, hey, you know what? Joe Flacco's a really good quarterback.
You know what gets me too, Sean? First of all, we love our superlatives. We've gotten really carried away. We need to put a specific math percentage on our superlatives. If you're elite, I would say you're the top 1% of quarterbacks if you're an elite quarterback. But you know what else gets me is this term GOAT. We love the term GOAT now.
Yes, it's all over Twitter.
Everyone's Twitter. I mean, they're sending me the GOAT emoji. Like, this guy's the GOAT. I'm like, there's one GOAT.
Ric Flair.
Exactly.
Ric Flair is the GOAT.
Ric Flair is the ultimate GOAT, for sure.
Michael
Jordan,
yes.
He's a GOAT. Yes, and we can all agree with that. Tom Brady, okay, like he's probably the GOAT. I mean, like GOAT, it's not something you use when a guy hits a game-winning shot. I mean, it's just gotten way out of hand. It's very frustrating. I can't stand to see these words because we want to make something more dramatic than it really is sometimes. That's just in our nature. We want everything that we're a part of to be the greatest thing ever, And I mean, that's good and that's fun, but we got to put things in perspective. We're getting carried away as a culture.
Yes, and again, I look at it from a basketball perspective. He's an elite level athlete. At what point in time are you an elite level athlete? What does your vertical have to be? Like what? How many dunks do you have to have? What's your 3-point percentage to be an elite level athlete? It's so often used, and for me, when I watch college basketball, I watch the NBA, they're all amazing athletes. I played in college, you played in college. I played basketball at UCLA, you played football at Alabama. I mean, we're talking about two of the biggest programs in their individual sports in the history of the sport. So when you go there, everybody around you is really good. Everybody around you is elite. So therefore, you're no longer elite. As every level you step up, you become a little less elite. And that's why I think we throw it around too much. It drives me nuts.
I agree. If you're elite, you better be in the Hall of Fame of whatever sport you're playing. Because it's not a one-time deal. It's a career achievement to be called elite. I think that's the bottom line. It's not a one-time deal. It's a career achievement to be called elite. You can't turn that on and off.
All right. You know what we can turn on and off, though, is the success of some teams and the offense of others. The Raiders' offense looked great at the start of the year, and now all of a sudden it has turned off. We'll talk about the Raiders. They were the AFC favorite. And all of a sudden now they're stumbling, and their quarterback's got back spasms.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
You got to go out there and earn that respect from the guys in the locker room.
Sean Farnham in with Barrett Jones tonight, and pretty interesting to watch this Raiders team. It came in with such high hopes. I really was a believer in the Raiders this year. And the Raiders in the first two games of the season averaged 36 points per game. The last two, 10. This offense has not gotten on track at all. They're not running the ball very well. The beast mode has been limited at best the last 2 weeks, and Amari Cooper has really struggled to get any kind of separation or any kind of consistency. And today they had to do it without Michael Crabtree. What do you make out of the Raiders and where they're at, Barrett Jones?
Yeah, honestly, when I think about the Raiders last year, what made the Raiders so successful was, to me, you know who I am, an offensive lineman. They had the second best offensive line in football behind the Dallas Cowboys. That offensive line was, Sean Farnham, they were elite last year. They were. They were upper tier. They were the second best O-line in the league. They were very good. This year they have not been that. I don't know what the problem is. A lot of the same guys back, Donald Penn, Kalichi Osemele. They have a lot of good players up front, have not been very good this year. Haven't been able to run the football. Haven't protected well. Michael Crabtree has been the guy. He was out today. I'm a huge Amari Cooper guy. I love the guy, love the kid. Played with him. He hasn't really broken out this year like a lot of people thought. So for whatever reason, these guys are not clicking. Right now, they look like they're the third best team, not in the AFC, but in their division. So I don't know. I think if I was a Raiders fan, I think there are things to be concerned about.
Well, you look at Amari Cooper, 2 catches. He was targeted 8 times for a grand total of 9 yards.
We know that pretty well, Sean, because he's on both of our fantasy teams.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed. Marshawn Lynch, 9 carries, 12 total yards. As a team, the Raiders rushed the ball 15 times for 24 yards. It's an average of 1.6 yard per carry. That's not going to get it done, and what it's going to do is get your quarterback hurt. And that's, to me, when I was watching that game today, and I was realizing, look, they cannot run the ball against this Broncos defense, and then all of a sudden the edge rushers were coming off, and Miller and everybody's firing up off the side. So now he's forcing Carr stepping up into the middle of the pocket, and then he's getting crushed by the tackles. That to me is a huge concern, because if Derek Carr goes down, and look, we saw this last year. The Raiders were great, and then all of a sudden Derek Carr gets hurt, and everybody's vision of how good this team might have been last year was lost. But then it came back going into this season, and sometimes the hype isn't the reality. Do you think they can answer and become what the hype was before the start of the season, or are they going to be lost all year?
No, I don't. After watching them, I really don't. I was surprised. I think a lot of people sort of forgot about this Broncos team. Didn't have a great year last year, kind of mediocre. But this defense, They got some guys getting older. Keep Talib's getting older. They're still dangerous. I mean, this defense today dominated that football game. I mean, they dominated the football game. So, I mean, you look at that division. I mean, such a tough division. The Chiefs, by the way, who I would say right now, best team in the AFC, Chiefs. Don't even have to think about it. The Chiefs look really, probably maybe the most complete team in football right now. I mean, the Chiefs, I'll say that, and they'll probably get dominated tomorrow night on Monday Night Football. Maybe the most complete team in football. I really like what the Chiefs are doing. Alex Smith is playing well. Defensively, they're showing they're running the ball really well. Kareem Hunt has been a revelation for these guys. And the Broncos, with that defense, man, that defense is nasty. Still, I would say, best defense in football. So that's a tough division. I'm not even sure the Raiders are going to make the playoffs this year.
Jeff Saturday tonight talking about the Raiders and their loss today against the Denver Broncos.
He throws one, it's in Cook's hands, and he drops it. It would have been a tough catch, right? Come back, throw it to Cooper, drop. Throws it to Cook again, who's wide open in the end zone for another touchdown. He doesn't make the catch. So listen, self-inflicted wounds, right? They scored. They actually have a 1-point lead, right? So as you're looking at these guys again, when you have opportunities to make plays, you have to make them. You got to make them. I mean, somebody's got to step up and make that play. You can't get away with self-inflicted wounds in this game.
And there were a lot of self-inflicted wounds for the Raiders today. Barrett Jones, Sean Farnham here in the locker room on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app. You talk about when you have an opportunity to make plays, you have to make them. And there was a team that was not like the Raiders today. And, of course, we're talking about the Buffalo Bills. Johnny in Tokyo, this is for you. Sean McDermott talking afterwards about the team chemistry that the Bills have as they went into Atlanta and found a win.
I love it. About the coaches, the team, everybody at One Bills. I mean, that's who we are, man. A gritty, resilient group. They just love to play together. You know, they love to play together. It's fun to watch them prepare. And the chemistry that's building on this team is tremendous. It's a team. And like I've said before, this is a team.
After that Week 2 loss to the Panthers, they've now beaten the Broncos and then go on the road and knock off the undefeated Atlanta Falcons. It's not pretty. All right, it's not a 46-point, 57-type point performance like we saw from the Houston Texans today. But yet they do everything they need to do to get the win. Are you believing in the Bills right now, Barrett Jones?
I don't know if I'm believing in the Bills. I am impressed with what they've done the last 2 weeks. I mean, kind of a super sloppy Week 1 win against the Jets. You know, terrible game Week 2, 3-9 against the Panthers. But like Chris Berman used to tell us, nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Came back, beat the Broncos and the Falcons back to back. You know, this defense is impressive. You gotta remember, these guys were in total rebuilding mode in the offseason, right?
Yep.
I mean, they traded away Sammy Watkins, traded away Ronald Darby. They're trading away all their viable pieces. They're literally collecting draft picks. So that's why this is a little bit shocking to me. They're basically admitting to the world, hey, it's going to be a few years. We're in rebuilding mode. And now you look up, who's in first place in the AFC East? Not the Patriots.
Okay, so let's stay on this for a second. And let's play. It's always a fun game to play, right? Okay, what happens next? All right, so now they're at Cincinnati. Cincinnati looked great today because they played the Browns, right? I mean, Andy Dalton looked good today. Congratulations, Andy Dalton. Congratulations, Bengals. You looked much better today. But one of you guys had to find a way to win a game, and you did. All right, but they're at the Bengals. Do you pick the Bills to win that game?
That's a tough one. At the Bengals? No, I'm taking the Bengals in that one.
So you're going to take the Bengals. I'd go with the Bills there. You have Buccaneers at home. That's a winnable game.
They got a lot of winnable games. I look at their schedule right now, too. Got the Jets again. Raiders, Saints, some teams that are struggling right now. I mean, this could be a playoff team.
That's what I'm saying.
They could sneak in there.
Okay, so let's look at the teams right now that have 3 wins. Who are pretenders and who are contenders?
Oh, I love this game.
Okay, let's start with Buffalo.
Pretender.
You're not giving them a contender label yet.
They're a pretender. I'm sorry. It's too early. They dumped off too many pieces.
Look, I'm not saying that the Patriots aren't going to win the division, but you don't think they can.
Charles Clay's elite, though.
Okay.
Just know that.
All right.
He's elite.
Let's go with the Steelers.
Oh, they're definitely contenders, for sure. I don't think they've even played up to their potential yet. I mean, this defense, to me, is a lot better. It's shocking. This Steelers team is totally different than 3 years ago. They're a ball control offense now with a solid defense. Definitely contenders.
Kansas City.
Oh, contenders.
Philadelphia.
Whew, that's a tough one. I'm going to say they're still 1 year away.
All right.
They're still 1 year away.
What do they need?
I think they need a running back, some consistency in the running game. I know LeGarrette Blount had a big game today, but probably more importantly, they need a secondary.
All right.
Their secondary's a little weak. Ronald Darby's out. They just give up too many yards on defense.
Detroit Lions.
Contenders.
The Green Bay Packers.
Oh, contenders. And I mean, anytime you got Aaron Rodgers, you're a contender. It's a
arguing.
quarterback-driven league. I mean, it is. You look at who's in the playoffs every year. It's Aaron Rodgers, it's Tom Brady.
The defense doesn't concern you at all?
I mean, it's definitely concerning. I'm just saying that they could get hot. I mean, that's what happens so many times in the playoffs. You get a team with a good quarterback, they get hot, they win the Super Bowl. I mean, you wonder why teams give up 20 picks for a first-round pick, and then everyone says, well, that was stupid, you should have done that. Hey, they wouldn't be saying that if it worked out, because if you get that quarterback, everything changes.
All right, Carolina Panthers.
Contenders.
The Atlanta Falcons.
Contenders.
The Los Angeles Rams.
Pretenders. Definitely pretenders. Hate it for them. They're still a year or two away.
Okay, but who's impressing you in the NFC West right now?
It'll be the Seahawks. I mean, they're not that offensive line for the Seahawks
is garbage.
Is a mess.
I mean, it's not
frustrating.
Good. I mean, wait, hold on. You're Mr. Offensive Line, and all night long you've been telling me how offensive lines are so important. And then the Seahawks, who quite possibly have the worst offensive line out of any one of those teams that we have in front of us, you say that the Seahawks, who aren't even on that list, are better.
The defense is too good. I'm just telling you, they'll find a way. This happens so many years.
But the Rams' defense is pretty good. I mean, that's the thing I feel most confident about this Rams. And their offensive line is getting better. They've got an elite-level running back in Todd Gurley.
Is he elite?
Come on.
He's good.
After his rookie year and how he's doing it right now, I'm in.
You're
He's
in
a Hall
on
of
elite?
Famer. He's going to be a Hall of Famer one day.
Oh, my goodness.
Let's go. I'm rolling with that.
You're rolling with that right now.
It's 1:44 in the morning. I can roll with anything at this point in time.
Todd Gurley is elite. You heard it here first.
Okay.
He's going to be a Hall of Famer.
Okay, but seriously, Rams, Seahawks.
Seahawks. We'll see you next week. I'm telling you, I'm taking the Seahawks. The Seahawks will make the playoffs. The Rams won't. Mark it down.
All right. Save the tape. I'm never working with them again anyway, so you just bring it back.
We might work together. You never know. I might catch a basketball game later this year.
Look, just relax, okay? Todd Gurley is going to be a Hall of Famer.
Hot take alert. Hot take alert. Hot take alert.
Thanks for listening to the Locker Room Podcast. Make sure to subscribe by clicking the Listen tab on the ESPN app.